Hello and welcome. Coming to you from the land of the free and the home of the brave. I'm Josh.
And I'm John, and I've got a Nathan's hot dog ready to chow down. But unfortunately, they canceled the event this year due to weather. So,
Oh, I hate it when that happens. But this is the Geek ETC podcast, where we dive into all things you can geek out about. Happy 4th of July.
hey, Independence Day, y'all. And I'm not sick.
You're...
That's my gift to the United States of America is I'm on my own 2 feet.
That's what you're celebrating this Independence Day, is not being sick.
It's not being sick, not being bedridden for like a whole week. Isn't that funny, though? I just read that earlier, what I just talked about, that they canceled this year's like Coney Island hot dog eating contest due to weather.
Really?
Yeah. You know where else you can eat hot dogs?
Made that up.
No, I did not. You know where else you can eat hot dogs?
I mean, anywhere.
Inside.
Yeah, that's where I typically eat them.
I've seen a dude eat a hot dog inside a cardboard box one time, and he didn't care, and he probably would have beat Joey Chestnut, to be honest with you. I don't know why we're doing this. I think when you do that, I think we're letting the bad guys win. I don't know who the bad guys are right now because it's not super clear, but you know what? I think I'm a little bummed out that we're canceling.
We don't get to see them do their little shimmy technique and the Kobayashi technique of shimmering to shake the food down.
The Kobayashi Maru.
Yeah.
No, for real though, isn't that silly that they would cancel that?
I mean, all the hot dogs. Yeah, the hot dogs are all soggy and wet anyway.
Yeah, just put up a tent. Nerds.
Like you don't have to dip them in the little cup of water. You just hold it out. It's getting pre-wet for you.
I don't know. That just feels like we're losing ourselves a little bit. We used to be a real proper country. We used to be able to eat 52 hot dogs in a minute.
Yeah.
Or whatever it was.
That's
3
true.
minutes? I forget how long it is.
I don't know that I've ever actually watched one.
You've never watched one before?
I've seen like clips of when someone does something crazy.
Well, that's fine. As long as you've seen clips of it.
But I've never like sat down and watched it from start to finish.
Oh, no. You have to be like from New York to do that. I think everybody else just sees it in clips or you catch it in passing, but you still feel very attached to it.
Right. Do you like Nathan's hot dogs?
I actually really do, yes.
That's about all that I get.
Really?
Actually, yeah. The past, like, I don't even know how many times that's usually what I go with.
It all started with the hot dog, well, quote unquote, hot dog barbecue place that used to be out near our house. Because that's all they used to eat. That was what their thing was Nathan's hot dogs. Mm-hmm. But it was even called, Eddie's Doghouse or whatever, but it was, it was not just that. They had some of the best barbecue in town. They had great food, and then he got so successful. He opened up a sanitation company in another state and made a bunch of money off of that, and the place closed down. So we've been Nathan's hot dogs folks since then too. And then we don't grill them a lot, but my wife will just put them on a pan and just 7-Eleven those things, just roll them around until they get nice and char on them.
I just boil them.
Oh, gross. Just put them in a pan, get that crust on it, baby.
I've never done that. I've never even thought to do that.
Yeah.
I didn't consider that as an option you could do.
Yeah, boiling hot dogs is just...
That's how I grew up eating them. So that's all that I knew.
Listen, I used to eat them straight out of the package sometimes. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, if you're hungry.
Hey.
What I still don't understand, though, is after how many decades they can't get the ratio right of hot dogs in the pack to hot dog buns in the pack. There's 8 hot dogs and 6 buns.
Yeah.
Like, very rarely can you find an equal pairing. And so you're always left with 2 hot dogs that just don't have one.
One time I made a hot dog chimichanga. Took a hot dog and put it, I think I filleted it down the line and put it in a tortilla and then put a bunch of mozzarella and then folded that thing up and then fried it. And it was a hot dog chimichanga.
That sounds good.
I have a picture of it. I'm not proud of it, but I did it and I ate it.
We've done food things in the past that we're probably not proud of, but that we did. I still have pictures of it.
And I want it to be out there first that, I did create the original pizza cake. I never trademarked it. And, ever since I was little, I thought pizza pie, why not pizza cake? Why not multiple pizzas stacked with like a cheese icing?
Right.
And I want to say that other people have done that since, and that's trademark infringement, but it's okay because I'm not going to come after you.
We had a lot of ideas that we thought of in our teenage years that we would later and often, sometimes not that long afterwards, it would some company would come out with literally what we were talking about.
Yeah, it hurt my heart a little bit.
Particularly our time traveling game.
But yeah, we thought of like a time traveling game, and then the terrible one came out right after that.
Yeah.
And I was like, what?
It was literally what we were talking about, but done like very horribly.
Yes, simulation theory. The people that are like coding engineers were like, oh, we're going to steal that and throw it back in.
Yep.
Just like my pizza cake.
That was lame.
It was lame.
Anyway. But yeah, it's 4th of July today.
It is.
I know me and my family, we're going to go out and watch some fireworks this evening. I think we're going to go like get some dinner and then go to a nearby downtown and set up some camp chairs and watch some fireworks.
Yeah, I like it. I'm going to go home and, grab my weapons and defend myself against the other rednecks who are out there who are going to be just shooting. No, but for real, I'll just be watching them shoot off all around me because it's
you, and I'm jealous. You live kind of out in the middle of nowhere, but because of that, you do get some of the sort of like locals out there that, there's no one out there to really monitor much stuff. So
nobody's
kind of go hog wild with it.
Nobody's calling the sheriff's office for that. Not, I wouldn't.
Because everybody else loves it. They're like, yeah, shoot up them big ones.
Yeah, except for last night because it was just unexpected. I was like, what is going on? And I was like, oh, it's July 3rd. I'm like, come on, guy. I felt a little old because I was like, come on, man. Yeah. Come on. Why are we? It's 10:30. Let's come on.
Dude, I heard them around here like 2 or 3 days ago.
Yeah.
I'm like, are you just testing them, making sure they work? Well, if they did, now they're gone. So you don't get to reuse them.
Yeah. Well, I'll actually probably there's usually a pretty good show at my house every year from one of the neighbors. They put them up there.
I watched we were actually sitting down last night, just kind of like in the evening, and I found a video of a Japan video of the guy that it was a video of their summer fireworks that they have. And it's literally just because it's summer, as far as I know.
Mm-hmm.
If there's some other deeper meaning to it, I haven't found it out. But it was just and their fireworks, I think it was the first time they had done it after 2 years because of like all the shutdowns and everything. So their fireworks went on for like 45 minutes.
Wow.
It was like forever, and it was really cool. So I don't know if I think they do Halloween fireworks as well, so we may be able to get to see some fireworks while we're there.
Ooh, some like scary pumpkin, like Gandalf, like thing,
dragon things that fly around.
That'd be pretty sick.
That would be cool. Anyway, so I have a little starter snack. The other week we tried those. You brought in those. What was it? The toxic waste.
The toxic waste super sour candies. That's right.
It turns out we're just fine.
We're fine. Yeah, we're immune to sour stuff.
Yeah. But I like the idea of trying something just right up front as a little tidbit. So I was able to get a hold of
absinthe.
We've talked about Ghost energy drinks multiple times.
Yeah,
I have been a big fan. You kind of got me addicted. But there was one flavor left that I hadn't ever tried and couldn't find anywhere. And so finally came across the Bubblicious Strawberry Splash Ghost.
Okay.
So it's based off the Strawberry Bubblicious bubble gum, which I think is good.
Yes, of course.
And so I'm curious to see what this will taste like and if we'll like it.
Okay, let's have a nice libation. And hey, if you're a soda company and you want to sponsor us, and we can make that noise more than one time,
right? Just like at the beginning of the movie theaters when you hear the way too loud cracking of a soda.
Exactly. Yeah.
I can smell it.
It's got a nice.
Oh wow!
It's definitely got a bubblegum nose to it.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Pink can, Bubblicious, 5 calories. I think what is it? It's 200 milligrams of caffeine,
but 100 split between the two of us.
That's true. That is true. And I've got a cherry limeade one too on the side.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't want to overload you.
Yeah. All right. So let's see. All right. Well done, Washington, George Washington.
Yes. 3, 2, 1.
All right. Wow, that is Bubblicious bubblegum.
Oh my gosh.
That is Bubblicious bubblegum in a drink. That is I almost don't like it because it's so much like it. To be honest with you,
that it shouldn't be that consistency.
Well, yes, I feel like I should be chewing that right now. That is insane.
My God, that is really good. I really like it.
Wow. So yeah, Ghost, if you really love Bubblicious Strawberry Splash Gum, that is, if you want to drink it.
Yeah, if you want to melt down some bubble gum and drink it in a bubbly can.
Man, that is it for sure.
But, and I've noticed all of their drinks, they're very
on point.
They're on point and they're very like potent. Like their flavors are strong.
Yeah.
To the point where many times I would cut the can in, I would only pour half of it and then cut it in half with water. And it's still very drinkable. It's still very flavorful. And it's just like a really good flavored water.
I can't do that, but yeah, I couldn't water it down like that. But I agree with you. They are really on point. Because, I mean, I got hooked on the Warhead ones originally.
Right.
And
Speaking of sour candies.
Because I love sour candy. They have an apple one and a watermelon one, and those are killer.
Those are good. Did they have the blue raspberries? Or is that the Sour Patch?
Those are Sour Patch Kids. And those are even weirder because they have like, those are more weird because they have you almost feel like you get that pop from the actual, like sugar.
Yeah, from that initial thing.
From the actual sugar, you actually almost feel like you're tasting the actual sugar like you would from an actual piece of candy.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Well, alrighty. Well, that'll be our beverage for the episode here.
Wow. Let me just blow a bubble real quick.
Just take a sup and then just blow it up. I feel like I've been chewing a piece of it.
Do you?
Like in my mouth. Like I feel like it's like I just like spit it out or something. That's crazy.
Hey, I did want to bring up some stuff real quick. Hold on. I need to switch over here.
Yep.
So anytime we get comments from our listeners, obviously we want to keep that in focus and we want to bring them up. Now, these comments are from our favorite film scenes episodes, and so I didn't put them in. We didn't put them in the episode before or the episode after that, just due to time constraints. And then obviously, I had the plague this past week or whatever, so we missed an entire week, unfortunately. And so I just wanted to share these since they are some of our community things. So one of our listeners says a couple of favorites is talking about their favorite movie scenes for them. Couple favorites off the top of my head: the opening sequence of the Revenge of the Sith, sick. Yeah. Love that scene. Love the Star Wars, like that. It's one of those great starship battles. And then the conversation between Theoden and Gandalf at the Grave Mounds, which love that. I actually just watched The Two Towers yesterday, coming out of my fever stupor.
Oh, nice.
And beautiful scene. And then the portal scene in Avengers Endgame, and that's obviously always a fun.
Yeah, that one's kind of pretty epic of it building up over so many years like that.
Yeah, when you everybody's back, baby. And then somebody mentions a scene in American Werewolf where the Nazi werewolves kick in the front door and mow down a bunch of people. That's their favorite.
Yeah.
And then one of our other listeners mentioned. This is for Children of Men. It's, which is one of my favorite movies. And honestly, this scene could have been on my list as well as for like favorite things if we would have had hours to drone on about. And it's, when Clive Owen is bringing the baby down the stairs in the middle of battle. So there's like kids aren't being born. There's like, whatever. And this,
I've never seen the movie.
You've never seen the movie? No, you have. I've made you watch the movie.
No. We've never watched that.
Pretty sure we have. Anyways, no. Because it's got a really realistic birth scene in it. Anyways, this kid's born, and there's not a lot of children. It's like very near future, very but also dystopian in UK, and there's like these partisans fighting British soldiers, and kids haven't been born in forever, like 10 years or so. And this one lady's pregnant, and they're trying to get her somewhere to people that'll help take care of it. And she has the baby in the middle of this war zone, and they're coming down the stairs, and the crying baby then you've got soldiers, everybody just stops shooting each other, and they're just all looking at this miracle. And it's like, as soon as they get back outside, 10 to 15 yards, everything just boom, starts exploding again.
Didn't that same thing happen in The Rings of Power? In Lord of the Rings, like the elves? or what was that in that like the elves couldn't have children? What am I thinking of?
I don't know. What are you thinking of?
There's some kind of fantasy movie
Children
or TV show
elves.
or something that, elves couldn't have children, then one of them finally did. Wasn't in like The Witcher?
No.
What am I thinking? I don't know.
I don't know either.
I can't remember. There's some kind of fantasy thing that had that, but I can't remember what it is.
Well, anyways,
whatever.
So yeah, those are some comments from our listeners, and obviously, if you're a listener and you want to comment on anything, you can always go to our Instagram, Geek ETC Podcast on Instagram and Twitter, or the Geek ETC Podcast on YouTube.
Yeah, you can search it on there, all one word in the search field, and it'll pull up our channel.
That's right.
You can go and subscribe there and listen to the podcast on YouTube, as well as any other major podcast platform that you enjoy.
And we try to release every Wednesday, as long as I don't have the plague and not running a fever for days upon days upon days upon days. And yeah. This one might be a delayed.
Yeah, this one might be off by a day as well.
Just due to the, you've got a lot of stuff going on as far as.
Well, today's usually my podcast editing days, and it being the 4th of July.
That's right.
Family's kind of busy with a lot of things, but that's okay.
So you can expect this to be a delay by a day or so.
What do you, going back to kind of the 4th of July real quick, I just wanted to touch on that. Have you ever been like a fan of fireworks? Have you been into kind of going out and watching them, or what are your opinion on fireworks?
I didn't go a lot with my family when I was younger. I can remember maybe a couple of times going with my family. It never really interested me as much as like an actual celebration where people were doing it there.
Oh, like more in person as opposed to watching from afar?
Yeah. So I remember one time in Kansas, and my family wasn't even there. I was with a family friend and her people. So like I don't know anybody at this party. I'm just there, but I'm like their tag along, and I think it was out in Emporia, like kind of close to where I was born in, but I don't really know anybody out there. And getting to do the mortar shells myself, because they had like, I'm talking the big production.
Yeah,
like they had all the mortar tubes set up. They had all the big commercial grade, the more of the commercial grade stuff set up.
Yeah.
And so doing that kind of thing was like super fun.
See, I feel like being able to do that kind of stuff in person would be more fun, but due to North Carolina and its laws, you can't legally buy those kinds of things here.
No.
And so growing up, any of the in-person stuff we had were always like, you light it and you set it on the ground and you step back about 10, 50 feet and it like shoots up sparks.
Yes.
Or you have the little sparklers that you light.
Back up, Terry.
Wave around. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's the way it is most places, but
sometimes we have bottle rockets and stuff.
But around here, typically what happens is everybody goes to South Carolina or Tennessee, loads up on the good stuff, and then they come back here. And that's what I'll see tonight.
Yeah.
Is from the locals is, they'll be out there with their rootin' tootin' good time, and they'll have their mortar shells, and they'll be shooting up a whole thing. I like that kind of thing, versus like a big crowded space. Now, the nicest one I've ever been to was with my brother when my brother went to college in Nashville, and in Nashville they have a pretty killer 4th of July scene out on the river. And obviously, now I'm not like a country music person, but because it's Country City, Music USA, they'll have actual big name stars out there. It's like a free show. People are out on the river. So like, I remember being there with my brother, like on a blanket out there with his wife. And I don't think they had any kids yet. And I remember seeing like Apaches fly over and,
nice
people up on stages. And, that was probably the most epic show I'd ever seen. But I think they were even shooting it out of because we were on the opposite side from where from the Nashville Titans stadium was. And so I think they were using the Titan Stadium to shoot everything out of. And so it was, bigger city, probably the biggest city I've ever been in when there's gone on, but it was pretty epic.
That makes sense. They'd have a bigger production like that. That's pretty cool though.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've never,
but it wasn't crowded like it is around here.
Yeah. That's why we don't go to like real downtown proper here. We go to a kind of a neighboring town because it's a lot less crowded. They still have pretty dang good fireworks, but it's a lot less crowded, and you can find more open seating and stuff. Because like I just don't really care to go downtown proper anymore. There's just too many people, and it's too crazy down there.
As my kid gets a little bit older and can respect it more, I wouldn't mind going.
Right.
For sure.
And I think that's the thing that obviously kind of sparks is as a kid is seeing these, because as a kid too, these loud explosions in the sky with these bursts of color, and you can feel the like thump against you when they blow up, and if you can get a kid past the point of potentially being scared by that and just into the fascination of it, then it's really a cool experience.
Maybe we can try to family it up next year.
Yeah,
I'll bring the wife and kid.
That'd be cool.
Be interesting.
That could be cool. But yeah, I was just curious. I mean, like I said, I'm a fan of the fireworks. It's a fun little way to kind of celebrate America.
Yeah, absolutely.
Doing what we do best, blow stuff up.
Blow things up, baby. Hopefully, if you're an ER nurse and you're listening to this, sorry. I hope you don't have too many fingers come off tonight. But
right. Yeah, my wife's been making that joke multiple times. That like the other night, she's like, "The last day for somebody to have 10 fingers."
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely is the price we must pay.
Yes, but speaking of explosions, you know what else causes an explosion? A fireball.
A fireball does do that.
A pretty awesome explosion.
Yeah.
So to transition quite a bit, I want to talk a little bit about Baldur's Gate 3.
Oh, I don't know anything about that.
Oh, well, let me tell you about it, sir. Other person who hasn't definitely put in multiple hours.
Yeah. So, this week we're geeking out about Baldur's Gate 3. We've been given early access to it. Josh and I have by Larian Studios, who's the producer.
Along with the rest of the populace, but.
So, Josh and I have received early access for Baldur's Gate 3. And for those that aren't aware, it is a Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition RPG game, right? Set in the kind of area of Baldur's Gate, which is part of the in-game world of Faerun, which is Wizards of the Coast, classic D&D stuff. And originally, I didn't know much. I never played Baldur's Gate 1. I never played Baldur's Gate 2.
Me neither.
They resonated with me kind of like Diablo has. Now, Diablo 4 has recently come out, and it doesn't interest me that much. And the reason why is it just seems really repetitive. And I know some people love it, and it is also a D&D-esque game. Yeah. However, it's just one of those games that like it was very clicky, like very click, 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 rapid click type of thing, over top, overhead, not as pretty. And then I saw the first commercial for Baldur's Gate 3, and I was like, oh, this is epic. But sometimes these RPGs, so for example, the Old Republic, the Old Republic, I don't love that style of gameplay necessarily.
Kind of MMO RPGs, particularly like World of Warcraft or, Eve or some of the Old Republic, some of those sort of things. Yeah, I've just never, neither one of us have ever spent much time in them and had much interest.
It just doesn't grab us. It doesn't grab us the way that other things do. And to each their own, because obviously those things are huge. Those things are like, World of Warcraft is a monster of a game. People love that game. It has changed the world. But it's just not my cup of tea as far as gameplay wise. So I remember seeing the Baldur's Gate 3 trailer, and it was very beautiful, very epic, very fantasy. You're seeing all this stuff, and then I put that's a mind flayer from D&D, and I started paying attention to it. And when I first started paying attention to it, I realized oh my god!
Do you remember when this was? Maybe
over a year ago.
Yeah.
Oh, well over a year ago, and I remember saying oh my god, this is what I would want to play. And I might even send it to you or something like that.
See, I don't. You may have mentioned in the past, but it wasn't on my radar. Like I had heard someone that we had played D&D with mention it, but I had never looked at. Again, I think I had just this preconception. I judged a book by its cover kind of thing, just based off really nothing. Like I hadn't even looked up anything on it. Hadn't watched any trailers, any gameplay, nothing. And I just had this idea of what the game was in my head. And so because of that, fortunately, I just completely ignored it until a handful of podcasts ago, right here on the show, like you mentioned something about Baldur's Gate. And when I was editing it, I heard you say it, and I was like, what is this Baldur's Gate? Like I've heard that the person we played D&D talk about it. Now you mentioned it again. I'm like, what is all this about? And I just started looking up YouTube videos, and was completely blindsided.
Yes.
By it was not at all what I was expecting, and instead, it was the D&D adaptation of a game that I've wanted for many years, but just didn't know existed.
Well, and probably one of the best fantasy RPG games, period, that I've seen.
Yeah. And again, a lot of this is based off only this early access. It's only like the first act of the game.
Exactly. So when I first started watching it, the highest level you could go to was level 3. Then they upped it to level 4, and now the highest you can go in early access right now is level 5. But they're planning on making the playable up to level 12, and so just the entrance piece, just the piece that Josh and I have been able to put our hands on.
Yeah, it was just last night when we just kind of basically finished Act 1 of Baldur's Gate 3, the kind of what you get access to in the early access.
Exactly, and that's still with missions that we can't get to, and among other things. And so with Baldur's Gate 3, so first off, it is a third-person looking down game.
Right.
It is.
You can like adjust the perspective slightly by zooming in and out.
You can zoom in and out,
but it's a third-person game.
It is a third-person game. I like that because the zoom in that you get on it is very nice.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things that is a roadblock with me with like Diablo is I don't think you can get close enough sometimes where you almost feel like, for me, somebody who's played a lot of real-time strategy games, you lose some of that personality in your character. Yeah. So with Baldur's Gate 3, you've been kidnapped by mind flayers, and you've had a parasite.
I guess some spoilers for the first act. If you're someone who's interested but has held off on playing the early access and waiting for it to come out.
It's a trailer. Yeah. It's part of the trailer too. This is not even really a spoiler. This is like the catch. This is how it starts.
Well, for some people they could see that as a spoiler, but either way,
we're going to
talk about it.
You get caught. You have a parasite in your head, and you wind up starting aboard this mind flayer, skyship,
a Nautilus
skyship, esque thing. And you're broken free, and that's you. Before that, you get your character design, right?
You get to make a character. Yeah.
We have been first of all, the early access that Lyrian's given Josh and I, has been impressive. Like all of the different classes, subclasses, and races that we've had. It has a majority of the player's handbook races from D&D 5e, and the majority of the classes, with the exception of Monk, which is coming in the final gameplay package whenever the game actually releases. So,
which I'm really excited about.
Yes, and to touch on that too, it's a game that was supposed to come out in late August.
August 31st.
August 31st is when it was supposed to come out. And
then the PlayStation that and the PlayStation 5 versions were both supposed to come out on August 31st.
Which is crazy, right? What's happened now is though, and this is something I love, is thanks to the feedback and gameplay and early access that they've given to some of us. They've gone in there and they've been able to kind of tweak the game to where they're going to release the PC version on August 3rd. They've bumped up the release date.
Yeah, by almost a month.
Which is really
cool. Completely unheard of nowadays in games.
Yes.
They did delay the PlayStation one back to September 5th, I believe.
Yeah, just by a week, just to make sure they were getting the frame rate that they wanted.
Yeah, but they also said that they were moving it up to kind of further distance it from all the fall big game releases that are coming out. So they get to give essentially distance it even further from Starfield.
Oh, gotcha.
Primarily is kind of the big other RPG competitor coming out. So to kind of distance himself from that further. And basically they literally said we want you to be able to play our game. And you'll come across pretty big, almost what you consider checkpoints, or just kind of good story driven stopping points throughout the story and the campaign through different acts and stuff that if another game comes out like Starfield and you're like, oh, well, I want to play this. It has spots built into it where it's like, this is a good place to stop, and I could go play this other game for a while, and when I come back, it's starting up on this fresh new kind of next chapter of the story.
Yeah.
So that was really awesome that they've even kind of catered to some of that sort of stuff.
Absolutely. You start out the game, you choose your race, your elf, your high elf, your wood elf, your dark elf, your human, your half elf, your
Dwarf.
half elf variant, your dwarf variant, gnome,
halfling.
Halfling, exactly. We're going to have, in the full release, we're going to have dragonborn characters. We're going to have half-orc characters. Like we're
Gith Yankee.
Yeah, I don't love the Gith, but that's fine. That's not doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what I like necessarily. But I mean, I can tolerate them in this game because they do it so good.
Mm-hmm.
And you choose your class. You get a little bit of background information. It starts you up with your starting equipment. You get to kind of like, adjust your starting stats.
If you're a spellcaster, you choose, your cantrips and your spells you start out with.
Yes.
And that's one thing that I'll just go ahead and talk about while we mentioned it is that's one of my favorite things about this is when you're playing D&D normally, either online or tabletop and stuff. So, 99% of the game is theater of the mind.
Yes.
And, you're casting a firebolt or, call lightning or some kind of spell, whatever it may be, and you're imagining it in your head. And you can maybe describe on what it looks like, but you're always just kind of imagining what it looks like. And there are some advanced, things like plugins and stuff you can put on Roll20 and stuff that have animated things that will show up and kind of show some animation stuff, and that stuff's cool. And
as a DM like myself, I try to narrate as much as I can to really flavor it towards that. But I cannot compete with.
I was saying, being able to see it visually 3D rendered graphically in a video game like that, and the sound is awesome.
Oh,
like the sound on, particularly like in the game that we just kind of finished, you're playing as a sorcerer and I was playing as a druid.
Yes,
and so your big kind of attack would be fireball. Mine would be call lightning. The sound on both of those is just so awesome.
Yes,
the sound of that fireball, how it's the explosion of it. It sounds guttural and just sounds like powerful.
Yes.
And the crack of the lightning as it comes down, call lightning and stuff, just the sound and the visuals, how they graphically represented all these different spells. And there's going to be they said there's going to be 600 spells.
Yeah.
Like, what? And each one of those is going to have its own. I mean, some of them, you can tell some of them are pretty similar. Like, your character will do the same, hand motion thing, but it'll just be, maybe a slightly different color or something. But for some of the things, it doesn't really matter. If you're just doing Shield of Faith or something, not that big a deal. But those attack spells, all those things are all different.
Mm-hmm. They all feel super unique. So, you do your character selection. You start out, and when you start out in your third person gameplay and you're actually getting to play and you're moving your character around, essentially it's point and click, which is very easy.
Yeah.
So you point and click and your character will move to that area.
I want to go here. You click there. They walk to that point.
There's a small little taskbar on the bottom. So when you're not in turn-based mode,
like in combat or something.
In combat, or if you've engaged turn-based mode for some other reason, you can kind of free click. You can kind of just free attack. You can send out cantrips willy-nilly and attack things.
If there's a pile of boxes in your way and or they're blocking a door, you can choose just to attack them with your sword or your axe or something. Or if you're a spellcaster, blow them up with a ray of a firebolt or something.
Firebolt, a ray of, destroy them with a ray of frost. Or even better, one thing I didn't even realize you could do is you can move things around. You can stack boxes.
That, yeah.
There's a little bit of that involved. So, it is so neat the way that they've got that. And then once actual combat begins, anybody that has any 5e background is going to find themselves like a fish in a pond. They're going to love it.
I haven't experienced this with many other games where a game that I had never played any of the versions, any of the past things before. I haven't even really played many games like this kind of turn-based RPG stuff before, and it kind of seemed overwhelming, but because I was so familiar with 5e Dungeons & Dragons, when I got into it, it surprised me how quickly I learned this stuff. I knew, I had that taskbar you're talking about, and I would hover over the things, and I knew what they all did.
Yeah.
I knew how to play this game, instantly.
Yes.
Because oh yeah, I'm in combat. I'm in initiative. I've rolled initiative. I'm next up in the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And these are my spell slots. These are my attacks. And similarly in kind of Roll20, how it's nice how you can just click your weapon. It does all the rolling and the math and stuff for you. This even further simplifies the stuff. You just click attack with whatever weapon you have equipped, and
whoever you're attacking.
Yeah, and like so, like 99% of the rolls all kind of happen in the background, but it'll kind of show you if you get like a critical hit or a critical miss or something. But every now and then you will actually roll like a digital dice typically for dialogue, charisma based or conversational things. But the combat, it all just takes care of it all, and you just have the fun of doing all the cool stuff.
Yeah, you can see how far you can move. Like everything's so intuitive that as a 5e player, and especially a GM, when I hopped inside of it, and knowing the rules.
I guess you'd have a different perspective on it too, coming from the GM.
Yeah, and knowing the rules as well as I do, like, being able to hop inside of it and be like, okay, well, I know I can do this and this, and then adding things to it. So there's a lot of neat things that are not even really necessarily homebrew that have been added to the game. Things like if somebody's doused in water, they can be electrified or frozen or something like that. If the ground is wet, you can electrify the ground.
Incorporated those kind of not non-standard actions that, like, in a D&D game, one of the beautiful things about it is realistically you can do anything you can think of.
Yes.
And they have done a really good job of making it a game of like, I wonder if this will work.
Yeah.
I wonder if this is something I can do. And a lot of times you can.
Yes.
Like if you can kind of logic it out to do something like, oh, that actually worked out like I thought it would.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's one of those things, where you can actually pre-plan, like, I'm going to soak the ground and I'm going to lure these guys into like electrify. I remember there was a scene where we did that, where one of Josh's characters or my character, they used a create water spell, and when you click on the spell, right, you go to the spell slot that you want, you click on the spell,
it puts a little circle up on the screen.
Puts a little circle on the screen. It's like, this is the area it's going to affect.
Yeah.
Super easy, super like very noticeable, very like great UI. You click it, water comes down, right?
And that area that the circle highlighted is now covered in water.
So then I send out a shocking spell on purpose, right after that, planned as part of that. So now I'm not only going to hit that person hard, but all the people that are in the water are now going to become electrified as well.
Yeah, they all get shocked and electrocuted in the water.
So then you see like the electricity buzzing through the water, and these guys are getting shocked. And then something happened that surprised me, because the next turn was like kind of the boss of that group of guys. And that boss used an attack that is a pulling action to pull one of their people out of the electricity to save them.
Yeah. I had already kind of done most of a playthrough on my own before you joined in on the other one. And like, that's the thing. I went through the whole thing and didn't ever see anybody do something like that.
Yeah.
And even saying that along that lines, there were many, many things that I saw on our playthrough that I hadn't seen on what I had done of my own.
Yeah.
But yeah, the fact that it had thought about, and I think we're even playing on like an easy mode or something.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, we haven't even played up. We haven't even. I need to do that for our next thing, like crank up the difficulty to see how that goes. But yeah, they were getting electrocuted, and they used a pulling thing and just yanked them out of the electrified field to potentially save them. I'm like, that is some decently complex AI stuff that they're doing.
I was very surprised that happened. Obviously, Josh and I are talking about it. So there is solo play, and then there is cooperative multiplayer.
Yeah,
with this as well.
I think you can have up to 4 people playing co-op together.
Here's the thing: this has been one of the smoothest, and to me, it kind of ticks me off how smooth it is.
I hadn't even really thought about that till you just said it.
That why we don't have it with other things.
Or like I hadn't even thought about how we haven't really had any problems.
We've had zero issues
in connectivity kind of things, like someone lagging out, or the connection not going, or something not syncing up between our games.
No, we've had a couple of dialogue things that have got a little.
Some of the dialogue stuff, but again, it's still early access, so it's something like that I completely ignore. I'm like, they can fix that stuff in the end, but.
So essentially the way Josh starts the game, he starts as a multiplayer thing. He sends me a code where I either I can just join it like a regular server, or he sends me a code where I just direct access and I join the game immediately. And then we're in the game. Both of our characters are in cutscenes. Both of our characters are able to I can finish, I can do make all the dialogue and finish a mission that maybe his character would not be as good at. Right.
And
it still counts for both of us. There's no, it's unlike a lot of games. We're like, did you not get the mission complete on that? Like, what?
Yeah.
No, my God, I gotta go. We have to defend that guy again.
The achievement didn't like pop for you, but I got the achievement.
Now I've got to go defend. We have to do another escort mission.
Yeah.
I need to be the one to put him in the plane this time.
It didn't get Marcus completed for you because you didn't pick up the thing, and then you got to go repeat the mission. Yeah, there hasn't been any of that.
No, everything has been so smooth. All of and I'm involved in his game. It feels like a very joint game. And even then, like if Josh and I are playing together, right, where there's other NPCs that you're allowed to, as a solo player, you'd be controlling up to 3 other NPCs.
Right. Yeah.
You have your team of adventurers.
You can have up to a party of 4. You don't have to have that many. You can literally just run with a couple people.
Yeah.
Which that would definitely be a hard mode.
Yeah.
If we ran just us. But yeah, you can send them back to your camp and stuff. And so what we did is we had our player characters, but then our other 2 member parties, we essentially each picked one for each of us. So we were both kind of controlling 2 people.
Yeah.
Two characters through the game.
And the game has done really well with that, as far as like, I'm controlling this person, they're completely under my control, and they're never waffling between me and Josh. Yeah. And we played that pretty smoothly that entire time, where we were able to, I've got my character, my custom created character. I've got this NPC character, and then Josh is his custom character and his NPC character. And we were able to really tactically do a lot of interesting things. We were able to hit things from multiple angles at the same time. It was, again,
being able to plan stuff out.
Yes.
Like that.
Yes. Even little things, like being able to Josh is a druid and he turns into a bird and he goes and scouts, you get that kind of thing going on.
We had, that one instance where we were on a floating platform, and there was another platform next to it that was hung by ropes, and there was 2 switches that would move the platform back and forth to get across this big gap. And without, maybe expending some higher spell slots to Misty Step or something all the way over there. We didn't really want to do that. And so being a druid, I just turned into a bird and flew over the gap to where the controls were. Everyone else hopped on the platform. As a bird, I flipped the switches, moved him over, and then I was able to fly over to meet him.
Yeah.
And then turn back into myself.
It was so cool. Like, just the way that we were able to accomplish tasks, the way that combat would work. Little things like being in an elevated position and shooting down on somebody would give you advantage, and so you'd have a higher hit rate on people with spells and ranged attacks and that kind of thing. And the rules of 5e that apply, like knocking somebody prone and then hitting them with a melee attack.
Yeah, you get advantage on them.
Yeah, there are several times where we were just doing really well, but like if Josh and I really needed to pull out all the stops, we could. I mean, we got into a situation in our gameplay where we were having a rough time, really rough time. And
oh, I remember what you're talking about now.
Where Josh, like, I lost my NPC, she went down, and then Josh lost his NPC and she went down, and Josh was constantly getting knocked down. His character kept getting hit and hit.
Yeah, kept falling unconscious, and I get revived to when I get helped back up by you, and then get knocked back out again.
Yeah, and so, knowing 5e rules, I was able to just kind of play around with it, cast the right spells, and then, help Josh out. And we somehow survived what was like a really we thought for sure that it was going to be one of those scenes where we're going to have
party wipe.
It was going to be a total party wipe, and we were going to have to restart, and it was going to be really frustrating. And we were able to hedge it out.
Yeah, by the skin of our teeth.
By the skin of our teeth, and then we were able to, use our revivify spell scrolls on our party members and bring them back up. And then we're like, okay, we've kind of saved this as best as we can. I don't know, man. It's one of those things. Sometimes it's hard to play, like especially in D&D, where, where you're the party kind of medic, or you're the party
the
support class.
Yeah.
But in this one, some of these support spells, you're actually seeing them go out. When you're actually out there and you're like, I'm going to cast a grease spell and knock all these people prone and they can't get to my guys.
Or when you would freeze the ground and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like little things like that where you're able to actually do stuff that sets people up where they can't hurt you.
Yeah, there's something about being able to visualize the battlefield as detailed as it is, in the placement of the people and stuff. You can, like, your brain is able to more concretely determine how these support things like that could really actually be effective.
Yes.
In these situations and stuff. Yeah, things like grease, or like an ice platform where electrified water.
Yeah.
Or even like on that, when we attacked that goblin camp and we decided to funnel them up a ladder.
Yeah.
And there was this tiny little platform that you had already electrified water or grease up on top of it. And then I blocked their path with a flaming sphere.
Mm-hmm.
And so they couldn't get past it without taking a ton of fire damage. And so they would just keep coming up the ladder, getting stuck or like falling on the grease and getting electrified and couldn't move past the fire. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing too, though. I will give their AI credit for this, though. They did that with like 4 of their people, and then they'd stopped coming.
Well, see, and I'm wondering, I haven't even thought about it till just now, but I'm wondering if we were to look at the stats of those characters that came up there, would they have a low intelligence?
I don't know. That's interesting.
And is that like what would determine if a character like engages blindlessly like that? If it's a low intelligence goblin, and like, yeah, I'm going to run up the thing and go get him.
Yeah.
Or if it's like a hobgoblin or some kind of higher intelligence thing, and they're like, I'm going to shoot him from here.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So even then, we weren't able to like necessarily kind of rig it the way we wanted to all the time because they wouldn't always play along. Now we could have some really interesting and meaningful things that we would do that would really set us up for success. The other thing is too, like the dialogue. You can talk to so many things. You can talk your way out of situations pretty regularly.
I saw someone asking on Reddit that said, "Is a non-hostile playthrough possible on this?" And they had this whole big discussion on like. They made a character that was just like full charisma, like 20 charisma and like all the, charm person, dialogue, like friendship kind of things. And just to see how much of it they could do and just not even have to fight anybody.
Yeah.
And I think there's like having seen what we've seen, like there's a good bit of stuff that, we could have we enjoyed the combat. So we would want to fight a lot of the things, but there was a lot of situations that we could have just, talked our way out of.
Yeah, there's a lot of situations where you can talk your way out of. Even then, you as a druid, right? As a druid, like, the druid is this kind of nature-based class in Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition for those that don't play it. And Josh would cast a spell called Speak with Animals.
Yes, which is amazing.
And he would run into these animals who were just, normally you'd see a rat running around. You just like, well, that's a rat, like maybe you try to kill it or something like that, like in other things. And this one, it's like, hey, I see something in this thing,
Yeah.
Like it's telling him there's like...
They've got a key in this chest over here. Like getting told this info by a rat.
Yeah.
Like there was one instance where, on one playthrough without that, walk up and there's this barn, there's this dead like goblin outside and you go inside and there's this cow inside a thing and it just moves at you and like the game kind of has a sort of DM-esque narrator that'll narrate certain scenes and stuff, which I really love.
Yes.
Having those little tidbits, like kind of speaking in like a third-person narration, like you notice that the cow seems upset about something, and then it'll come up with dialogue options, like it'll say like persuasion or deception or intimidation or nature, druid stuff, and you got options depending on your classes and your races. You get like a ton of different dialogue options that you can choose from, but you could try and calm the cow down or whatever. But if you go in the same scenario and you either cast like Speak with Animals or drink a potion of Speak with Animals, then you just go in and the cows are like, the small one kept yelling at me and he kept, he killed the other cow outside and so I rammed into him. And you're like, you killed the guy outside? And he's like, yeah, he was big and loud. And so I ran into him till he stopped screaming. And you can just literally have these conversations with the animals.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, the same thing, there was this bear sleeping on a platform you needed to get to, and normally you just have to, like, try to convince the bear or kick it to move it. But this time I went up and I was like, hey, bear, we need to use the elevator. Can you move? And he's like, all right, fine, I'll just go sleep over here. You just talk to the animal.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like, the fact that there's so much hidden dialogue. In the same vein, Speak with Dead.
Yeah.
Like, we did that only a couple of times, but I guarantee you, like, there's a ton of NPCs that if you were to kill, you'd use Speak with Dead and come up and have a whole nother conversation with them with this dialogue that you normally would never see.
I know you can find loot, a bunch of stuff like that. Yeah, absolutely. Or even like ways to get around things. There's so many different situations to detect thoughts, like I know there's a situation where you run into a goblin and he's acting tough, but when you have detect thoughts that's cast on yourself, hear his inner monologue. He's like, I really hope they don't want to fight me. I'm scared.
Right.
And he's putting on this bravado. And so you kind of play off of what he's saying in his detect thoughts things.
Yeah. You can call him out on it. And then he's like,
and he'll be like, all right, I'll give up. And I'll even tell you this really cool way to get across this path.
Yeah.
You know, man, it's just been it's been one of those games that's been so much fun, and it's not been super linear. And, you know, even little things like finding ways around stuff. Like, I wonder if we can get down here, cast Featherfall on myself so I don't take fall damage,
right.
You know, and jumping off and, you know, taking these interesting ways. We've been able to do and see a lot of really cool things, and we've been able to use like really cool sneaking methods to get to different places because of that. And, I think it definitely made our first playthrough, me and you together, feel very unique compared to my solo playthrough.
Oh, again, same with mine. Yeah, like everything I had done, I did there. Even though there was so much repetition, it was so different.
Yeah,
and there was like so many, and even in that, like they've heard them talk about it in their some of their updates that they release and stuff. That, you know, the developers, you know, they've played through the game, I don't know how many times. They said, you know, even if you come across a lot of the same things, due to the nature of it being D&D roles, all your roles can be different.
Yes.
You know, you could have the exact same encounter, but everybody rolls something completely different, so it turns out wildly different.
Yeah.
You know, different people lived that didn't before, vice versa, and it just can turn out way different.
Well, and there's a thing too, because, you know, Josh, I played a little bit solo, waiting for, like, you know, Josh had got the game before me. And then I got the game, I played a little bit solo just to get my feet wet. And then we started playing our co-op campaign, and seamless as it was. And then Josh is like, oh, no, we got to go check on this. And we would miss points, just like the way that the time moves in the game, where things happen it's not dependent on whether you're doing it.
Yeah.
It's just happening in the background. So we didn't actually get to save some people who were like murdered because we just didn't get to it fast enough.
Yeah, if you don't get to it by a certain point in the game, if you take too many like long rests or complete, you know, certain missions, you know, too much time has passed, then things don't wait around forever on you in that game.
Yeah, they don't.
Like, there's consequences and stuff happens if you just don't see it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you come upon the bloody scene of someone who was assassinated, and you're like, shoot, like if I would have got here earlier, thought about it, like.
See, and for me, I would have, as a game, like when I played through it, I would have just been like, oh, interesting, somebody's been murdered here.
Well, that's what and that's what I thought my first, so I've actually done, I did like a handful of hours on a first playthrough and wasn't really happy with my class choice and stuff, so I restarted with a different class and played, that was the one that I played pretty much almost all the way through. But even on that first one, that's exactly what I thought. Is I came across a couple missions, and having played games that I played, I thought that's how it was. I was like, oh, this is how the mission is this person's just dead, and you have to try and solve what happened or deal with whatever happened and stuff. But then the next time I got there earlier, and that thing hadn't even happened yet. That person wasn't dead. They were still alive, and they were just like been captured. And I'm like, wait, so you're saying I can stop that from happening?
Yeah.
And I literally sat there for a minute, and my mind was blown. I was like, this is awesome. Like, I can save this person, and that consequence doesn't even have to happen.
Yeah.
And so after that point, like before I kind of moved on for any kind of story stuff, like I would explore like every little nook and cranny of these little areas. Like I already remember, even there's a handful of things that we didn't do in our playthrough that I did in the other one.
Really?
That we missed out on.
Okay.
Yeah,
interesting.
We just went too quick through places.
Well, we started another one last night, so we'll have to check it out. Yeah, so far, honestly, there's been a few quirks with dialogue where things have not synced up necessarily, or we're like, you know, there's a little bit of like repetitiveness, like in the audio, where I can hear Josh's, like, if I join a conversation, I do like the way that they do that. The way that they do the conversation. So if Josh is talking to an NPC as part of like mission dialogue or whatever, I don't have to be part of it.
No, whoever talks to the person first, like they are the one kind of in charge of that conversation.
And they enter the cutscene, and what you can do is you can actually see the dialogue boxes above their head, and you can click on, there's a little gray ear that pops up, and you can click on it, and then you will then hop in there too, and then you can help, like, you can actually...
You can observe it. Just observe it if you want to just listen
or vote on what you think they should say out of the options that they get.
Yeah.
you're part of like, you get to watch their roles and everything.
Yeah. Or what's really awesome, what blew my mind again, is you were in a conversation or you were trying to like lockpick something, and it was like a really high DC of like 20 or something. But then I can click the little X and back out of the conversation, and I'm just kind of back out in the open world. But then I cast Enhance Ability on you and give you like Cat's Grace for advantage on dexterity checks. And then in your conversation, where you normally just had a regular roll, suddenly you've got advantage.
Yep.
And I can give that to you from outside the conversation, and it affects you.
Yes. That's
crazy.
The game has been like, it has done so well. Like the scenery, beautiful. Like I'm even running it on lower settings because my computer's not as hopped up as Josh's is. Yeah. And I'm running it on lower settings, and it's gorgeous. The game looks beautiful. It is.
There's surprisingly few loading screens,
if at all. Is there a loading screen at all?
Sometimes, like when we got on that boat to go out into the river, there was
that just turned into a cinematic,
a little bit. I think if there's cinematic, sometimes it'll go to like a short little thing, but oftentimes it's not much.
There's very little in terms of like loading screens, and even from like going inside of places and outside of places, the way that they do the interior buildings and exterior buildings with the third person point of view, with
kind of think
overhead.
Of the Sims a little bit.
Yeah.
Like you can see through the walls and stuff.
Yes. They do a really good job. All the loot looks really good. The outfits look amazing. Yeah. Man, just so far, this game has like been exactly what I've wanted, and it fills a niche for me that I've not had, I don't think, before. And I think with the final playthrough, because now what we've seen is that they're planning on recreating Baldur's Gate City, where they've already created it. It's going to be in the full release version. And Baldur's Gate 3, like Baldur's Gate, the city is actually really big. And so now we've got this, pretty like large outside world area that we're going to be able to go do missions on. And there's going to be things happening. And then we're also going to have now going into a city. And everybody who doesn't love wandering around a fantasy city,
Yeah. I'm really excited to see whenever, like, I can't wait for this game to come out. Like, it's been a long time since I've had a game that had me like jonesing to play it. Like I can't wait to like get home to like and like get whatever kind of chores I have done in the house to kind of do get the laundry and stuff done so I can hop back into this game and play it some more.
Yeah. And I feel the same way. I'm excited. Like when I'm like, okay, I can't wait for Josh to get home from work if like I'm off,
right?
So that way we can play. Or like at nighttime, like get some hours in if you don't have to work the next day. And it's been pretty impressive, honestly. We've got a little bit of the background playing right now where we can see how big the city is. I think the city is going to be crazy. I think there's going to be a lot of really interesting, political things going on, schemes and missions and heists.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how that develops. You hear about like, I mean, if there's some big castle thing, and like if we've got a couple of rogues and stuff, we pop some potions of invisibility and go start and like sneak our way into this. You're like turning like shape like druid shape into like some like a cat or something. And you just covertly wander into the place. Like there's 1,000 ways you could accomplish these tasks and stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, even right now, the level we're at, level 5, you have access to level 3 spells within the game. Look how big this city is. And you have the ability to fly. So imagine being able, you could be just flying around. You could fly from roof to roof. You could
fly up to the top of this castle up here and stuff. Like,
I'm very interested to see how this game's going to work out, because it is, and they're going to take it all the way up to level 12, which is going to allow for some pretty powerful gameplay.
Is it level 6 spells at that point?
Level 6 spells, which is huge.
I think it's level 6 spells, which are getting some crazy stuff.
Yes. Like chain lightning and disintegrate and that kind of stuff. And then, you're going to have a bunch of different classes with a bunch of different subclasses. I think there's going to be at least a minimum of 3 subclasses per class. And some of them are going to be Player's Handbook, and some are going to be from Xanathar's Guide to Everything. So you're getting things like the Spores Druid, which I think is one of the most OP Druid classes. And your wife played one. I think that one's going to be a nasty one to play in Baldur's Gate 3. There's all the wizard classes, all of the the clerics. I think they're adding a Tempest sorcerer, a Storm sorcerer into the game. It's going to be pretty epic. So if you guys are a 5e player and you're looking for something to play, man, you gotta go. I think you guys have to play Baldur's Gate 3. I mean, so far it has my 100% of my backing to it.
Like this is definitely going to be one of.
We're going to have gameplay footage for sure of this as soon as it comes out. I think that's going to be one of our big things.
Right. Yeah. So that's one of the things with all the races and sub races. They pretty much, most of them have like 2, if not 3 sub races, and the freaking Dragonborn has like 8 or 9 or something.
10.
Or 10. It has 10 sub races for like each of the chromatic
and metallic
and the metallic dragons. Like, and they're each different.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Yep.
So that's going to be super exciting. I can't wait to dive into that and to see what other
character creation. They're going to be going a little bit more in depth on that. I think as far as body styles, not just faces and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's one of those. This is one of those games I think is like absolutely, to me, like I don't care about Skyrim ever again.
Well, what we're doing is like what I wanted in Skyrim.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's the things that I've like wanted to see, is to have that co-op and a fantasy kind of thing with all the magical stuff you get to do.
I think this is exactly the way we were playing, because we jonesed that one. We played that one Skyrim co-op. Together.
I set us up through like a mod, a multiplayer Skyrim, like it Better Together, I think is what it's called.
The Better Together mod
that you could play co-op stuff, and it was barely
janky.
Functional, super janky,
not synced
up at all.
Not synced up at all. Even this game has been out forever, and the mod support's there, and what it's one of those things that like. It's what we want. People want to be able to play RPGs with their buddies. We want to be able to take part in that, because it's one of those like most personal things that you have. It couch co-op is slowly going away, unfortunately, and man, the level of fun that Josh and I are going to have with this, and like the different playthroughs that we're going to put through on this, it makes me so excited. I mean, there's different feats. Let's go up and let's actually go through some of the classes, Josh.
Yeah, so we mentioned the races stuff. I finally found the article I was looking for here that kind of described all the new stuff. So going down to the classes. Yeah, so everything has at least 3.
Yes.
Of the classes, whereas Paladin has 4, Cleric has 7, and Wizard's got 8.
Mm-hmm.
Jeez.
So for our Barbarian class, right? So our 3 subclasses, and this is launch classes, and they've made that very prevalent.
Prominent.
This is launch.
To include that launch verbiage in there,
which makes me think that we're going to see, especially now that they've included things. So like they've got Berserker and Wildheart Barbarians, and then the next Barbarian, the one that's going to come out with the full launch, is going to be the Wild Magic Barbarian, which is one I think is really interesting.
Yeah.
And it's not from the player's handbook. It's from Tasha's, or it's from Xanathar's. I can't remember which one. So that lends itself for us to be able to have Xanathar's classes like Hexblade Warlocks and that kind of thing. I imagine for DLCs, and it's one of those things where I will say happily take my money.
Oh, exactly. And this it's I think like this is a perfect setup for DLC stuff, because the first DLC update they come out with, the first update is like, now you're level 14.
Yep.
You can literally just add that, like add 2 more levels, and everybody's going to be like, awesome.
Yes.
That is, I can take my characters that I have, and I can get 2 more levels, 2 more levels of feats and spells and stuff, and you can do 16 and 18 and 20. So you've got like 5 huge updates you could do just with that.
You got your Druid, you've got the Circle of the Land and Circle of the Moon, which are currently playable in early access. And like we said earlier, they're going to add Circle of Spores, which is a Xanathar's class, which is going to be one of the more powerful ones out there. And it has so many interesting things. And the way that we played in the Underdark already,
right?
I'm so interested to see what a Circle of Spores Druid would be like in the Underdark, and what kind of awesome like dialogue options
you get, what specific things you could get with some of the things you meet down there.
The fighter class, the Battle Master and Eldritch Knight are currently in early access, but the Champion's going to be a new one, which the Champion's kind of a very vanilla class for me.
Yeah.
But they are adding multi-classing. So this is one of those, the Champion's probably one of the like ones people might multi-class into just to get that critical on a 19 and a 20 on their rolls to have an increased critical range.
That'd be nice.
The Ranger, the Hunter, and the Beastmaster are currently in there. I like the Beastmaster that they have in there. You know, it has very interesting. We're able to summon this really cool companions and everything. And then they're going to have the Gloomstalker, which is another Xanathar subclass.
Yeah.
Which is also going to be interesting to see how that like takes place in the Underdark.
I wonder how like Drake Warden would work in that, having a dragon that would grow over time.
Well, the way that I've seen it now, though, the way that we've seen it, it seems like a Drake Warden would work perfectly because some of the summons that you can already do, the fact that you can turn into a polar bear as a moon druid already, you can summon quasits and imps, you can summon, you know, Find Familiar. Like I've not even really played around with the Find Familiar on
we haven't done that much.
My wizard that much.
Yeah.
Which is insane. So the Rogue, we have the Arcane Trickster and Thief, which are currently in there, and then we're going to have the Assassin, which is going to be.
That might be the one I go with on that first playthrough, having that Assassin class, and specking that out with like that and like sharpshooter and stuff. So to have just a archery sniper to be able to pick people off from everywhere,
that'll be wild. Sorcerer, we have currently in early access Wild Magic and Draconics Bloodline. And then they're going to add the Storm Sorcery,
which is awesome.
The Storm Sorcerer is a killer subclass.
Yes.
With a lot of interesting things, very powerful, and some really great ways to get out of harm's way. Being able to fly like at pretty much level 1, you know, for 10 feet.
Yeah.
If you cast a leveled spell, I mean, that is a killer class. The Bard, you know.
Yeah, that's one that I haven't even touched yet.
Yes.
And the thing I haven't, because none of the NPCs we have access to like they can be part of your party, or none of them are bards at the moment.
Yes.
And I haven't even played around making one as a bard.
Yeah.
So that's a whole thing I haven't even done yet.
So currently in early access, there's the Lore and Valor bards. So totally different. The Lore bard is definitely going to be interesting at level 6 whenever the full game opens up and you start getting access to you get access to spells from any class level 6, which will be really interesting, and at level 10. And then the Swords Bard is going to be the newest one, and that's going to be a really interesting kind of melee support class.
Is that the more like combat focused bard thing? Yeah.
And then you have Monk, so they're adding the Monk,
which I'm also super ecstatic for.
So they're going to have the Way of the Open Hand,
the
Way of Shadow, and the Way of the Four Elements. And the Shadow Monk, I mean, you're going to be able to just teleport around in darkness at level 6. Oh my God. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, and like that's the thing, like I want to multi-class a Shadow Monk with an Assassin Rogue.
And you can do that.
Yeah, and just make like the best ninja ever.
It will be killer.
Yeah.
Literally. And then we go to our Warlock. So they have the Fiend and the Great Old One currently in early access, and then they're going to add the Archfey subclass, which is interesting. The Warlock, for me, I like Warlocks.
Yeah.
They only have the Pact of the Chain right now in early access. That's going to be more interesting to me is when they add the different pacts, the Pact of the Tome, the Pact of the Blade.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see how that's going to work because the Pact of the Blade's one of those ones that a lot of people love. And if I can tell you this much, when Larian, I know they're going to do it too because it's probably one of the best DLCs to do. When they say, "Hey, do you want to have a Hexblade Warlock?" Yeah, people are going to buy that immediately.
Oh yeah. But that's another thing I'm going to be interested to see as well is on things like either Archfey and stuff, is because we've come across some NPCs that are like, you know, we've come across like demons and other things, like to see again, even back into those special dialogue options you get. Like if you've made a pact with like an Archfey or something, or any of those things, like how is that going to be incorporated into some of these story things that you come across at some point?
The different kind of like, the play that you get with that kind of thing is going to be interesting.
That you might not even have if you don't have a Warlock in your party at all.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it might open up a completely new door to a different route through something that normally you couldn't have.
Exactly. So then we have the Paladin, which they currently have Oath of the Ancients and Oath of Devotion in early access.
And Oathbreaker.
And Oathbreaker. you can only get by actually breaking your oath. So, you actually have to do a bad, evil thing. There's like a couple different evil things you can do currently in early access, which will change you into an Oathbreaker Paladin. Huh. And then if you wanted to find your redemption, you could redeem yourself and become, return to your oath in the future. And then they're going to add an Oath of Vengeance as well, as one of the launch classes.
Yeah.
Going down to Cleric, currently there's only Life, Light, and Trickery.
Yeah.
In the early access, but they're going to add Knowledge, Nature, Tempest, and War.
Which is crazy.
Tempest clerics are awesome. Nature clerics are pretty dope. So those are going to be really interesting to see. I think the Tempest cleric especially, because currently none of the clerics have access to martial weapons and heavy armor. And I think now that you add the War cleric and the Tempest cleric, who are going to be very melee based,
right,
it'll be very interesting to see.
Having some of those, like, to be able to still be kind of tanky and do some damage and stuff, but still have those healing capabilities in the party would be super useful.
Absolutely. And then for the wizard, currently there's an Abjuration, Evocation wizard. Those are the only two in the early access. But they're going to add the School of Conjuration, Divination, Enchantment, Necromancy, Illusion, and Transmutation. Wow.
Really?
Those are most, and to be fair, I mean, the cleric and wizard have a ton of subclassic, even in just the basic player's handbook, which I know they wanted to add most of the player's handbook subclasses. And I think they even have more to add for cleric, but it'll be very interesting to see, you become a necromancer and like what you're going to have following you around, like a whole bunch of undead and how that affects things.
Yeah, they released a little video on that. I think it was on their Twitter or something today, or Instagram. And this was just a preview of some of the what necromancer powers could look like. And they've just got like a horde of zombies following them down an obstacle course.
Oh my goodness. Just imagine running those guys into something.
Yeah, just like a horde of stuff following you in somewhere. Oh yeah. That's going to be cool.
So those are some of the classes that they have and subclasses they have. They have a whole bunch of starting things, a whole bunch of new spells coming.
Some of the spells, like I was just kind of scrolling through this list trying to find something like I see, greater restoration. Like we've come across people who were petrified.
Yeah.
In stone by something. And they have items in there already, like basilisk oil and stuff that you can use to reverse that. But having like greater restoration and just, again, you come across this person made of stone and you just cast a spell on them and they're free. And there's a whole line of dialogue that you can have with this person who knows what they might tell you. I see like Globe of Invulnerability. Mm-hmm. I feel like that could have helped us quite a bit in certain situations.
Absolutely.
Is that a concentration spell?
Yes,
I imagine so. Yeah, so combining some things like that, I'm wondering what that would be like.
I mean, even little things, just adding like a level 2 or a level 2 ice knife.
Yeah, or even like ice knife, or just some other options for those little cantrip or little small level 1 attack spells. Could be really cool.
Smites. I mean, I did that Thunderous Smite last night, and I thought it was amazing. I smashed this dude and sent him prone. It was actually one of the NPCs that you can play. So we killed one of our NPCs last night, and it didn't end the game for us. So we'll see how that goes going forward. Because he was an annoying guy anyways.
Yeah. But things like Arcane Gate, being able to teleport like long distances and stuff, wondering how that's going to work out. Let's see here. I mean, I want to see I just want to see the animation for Disintegrate.
Disintegrate's can be disgusting.
I want to see what the heck that does. That sounds like it's just going to be nasty.
Yes, I imagine it would. Destructive Wave. I mean, come on now. I mean, here's the thing and I think it's one of those things too, or if you don't have a good grasp of 5e, or if you have like a rudimentary, like if you've played a little bit of a campaign, I think this is a good way for people to visualize things, and hopefully maybe they'll bring that into their actual tabletop play as well. I know me seeing some of this stuff, I'm going to be starting a campaign soon where I'm going to be playing as a wizard. Yeah. And I can tell you this much, I'm going to be trying to, narrate as much of the stuff as I can. Yeah. Because I want people to have fun with it, and I want people to think my spells are cool.
Right.
And I'm going to be doing a lot of that. And luckily, this extra visual that I've gotten from Larian Studios and watching Baldur's Gate 3 is going to be super helpful to me, I think.
And that's what I was going to say too, is like having played this game and having to figure out these D&D-esque situations that they're in, like I feel like I'm getting smarter at the game. Like I'm learning new and previously unknown ways to do some of these things, or just ideas to have, or how to combine, being able to oftentimes you're playing 4 different characters with 4 different classes and stuff, and so you're getting exposure. That's one thing we talk about in our in-person games is we have all these character ideas and we want to try all these different things.
Mm-hmm.
This kind of can give you an outlet for that to like, what would you can make a character you have in it, like if you have an idea for an in-person character, make them in this game and play with them a little bit and see how it works out.
Exactly. Well,
it's like an awesome test bed for your in-person.
That's one of the things that's nice about the NPCs too, is for the most part, if the NPC doesn't get their, the NPCs that you can have join your adventuring party, if it's not a class that gets their subclass at level 1, right? Like there's a fighter that joins you, that you have a wizard that joins you, there's a rogue that joins you. You actually get to pick their pathway for them. So you actually get to choose their subclass. You get to choose what spells they pick. You get to do that kind of thing. So even you can have your cool custom class, but if you're one of those people that like just hits people, if you're like, I chose a fighter, I don't really love being a fighter, you can still have fun being kind of the face of that and like doing cool things as you level up, while also having a wizard that you're also completely in control of, and that you can use those spells and you get a little bit of extra gameplay, and that I think that'll be huge for people as well.
Oh, for sure. It's I can't wait for it. It's going to be such a big game.
Yeah.
And like they said, like people who are just kind of running through it, it was like 80 to 100 hours.
Yeah.
And if you're like the type like us that we'll probably do with our full playthrough, is like going through and doing every little thing everywhere. Yeah. Like they said it was like easily like 200 hours plus.
Yeah. And so this is going to be one of those games that's going to come out. We're going to be putting a lot of hype into it because it's a game that definitely, I talk about like, gamers fight better together. It seems like Larian Studios has done a lot. They have really made this game something that I love, I enjoy, and I think honestly, if you've not heard of it, you should check it out. Even just watching playthroughs on YouTube, it is so much fun to think about. And then the second I saw Josh playing it over here in the studio, I remember saying like, okay, I got to do it.
Yeah.
Just watching it. As soon as I saw it in person, I went home and downloaded it that day.
Yeah, got to pull the trigger.
I went home and downloaded it that day and added it to my list. And then the way as smooth as co-op has been, I'm glad that I've waited this long, because we would have been waiting.
Yeah, if we would have discovered this in 2021, they're like, well, now I got to wait for like 3 years to play this full thing. Now we're like, all right, we got to wait like a month.
But we're right on the hype train, and
and like you said, they put so much stuff into it. They had released some little stats that it has more cinematic dialogue than 3 times all 3 Lord of the Rings novels combined.
Yes, I believe that.
What?
Yeah. And
it has 174 hours of cinematics, making it more than twice the length of every season of Game of Thrones combined.
Yes.
that doesn't make sense. That's crazy.
Some of those are just short cinematics, and some of them are pretty epic cinematics. And man, I don't know. Everything so far that I've seen in this game, to me, it makes it one of the best games I've ever played. And I think it's going to wind up being like that. I think it's going to be one of those games that you and I play that's going to be like a notch on like our friendship thing. Like, there's games that you and I have played for a long period of time.
Defining moments.
Yeah, like been defining moments of like decades or periods of time. And come August 3rd, I think that's going to be something.
This will be the next chapter.
100%. I'm on vacation too during that time, so we're gonna.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's gonna be. There's gonna be a lot of content.
It's gonna be tough when I go to Japan. And I'm gonna be gone for like 3 weeks. I'm like,
oh no,
I want to play. I wonder if I could save up enough money to get a Steam Deck and just load this. Someone was playing it on there. They said it actually works fairly well.
Really interesting.
But I think when they add more proper controller support, then it'll work even better.
Yeah, especially with now it's gonna be releasing on PlayStation, which I think this is the kind of game. Like, I'm very impressed they're putting it out on a console. Yeah, and I'm as an Xbox player, I'm a little bit jealous, but luckily I have it on PC. But if you're a PlayStation player and you've missed out on these kind of like RPG-esque things that have come out only to PC, I think you're really going to be able to hit it out of the park when it comes to.
And it's going to eventually come to Xbox, but they've just apparently ran into a lot of issues getting it to work with the Xbox XS ecosystem.
Okay,
like with multiplayer and split screen and stuff. So they haven't said that it's not coming to that. It's just that they don't want to put it out half working.
I'm fine with that. Great work, guys.
No, yeah. Again, I might be interested. We'll probably end up getting on Xbox 2 just to check it out, see what the experience is like. But we've got it on PC, so waiting for August 3rd.
Yeah, August 3rd. There'll be a big countdown for when that actually comes out for us. So, anyway, Baldur's Gate 3. Yes. You guys aren't familiar with it, or if you guys are like, hey, dummies, you guys should have been playing Baldur's Gate 1 or Baldur's Gate 2 from the beginning. You guys are probably right. We should have. Yeah. You're right. We should have done it. But, we're here now. We are full 100% hype train now on this, and we hope that you guys will check it out.
If you have any interest in RPGs of any kind, or any fantasy stuff, or D&D, and if you've either got if you've got the ability to play the early access, if you have a computer good enough to download this and play it, you can check out the minimum specs on their website. Then definitely give it a shot.
Absolutely.
It is one of those, you do have to pay full price for it.
Yeah.
But you have the game when it comes out. So yes. I was fine with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it very quickly moved up my list of favorite games. Like if we do a Redux episode, like a remix episode of our episode 2 and 3 of our favorite games, this might take a spot.
It might have to, especially like I said, after August 3rd.
We'll see once we put some hours into the full game.
Yeah,
for sure. But I'm pretty confident in what they got going on.
Absolutely. Well, that's what we've been up to. We appreciate you guys. Our recording schedule's been a little bit more hectic, obviously, with the plague that's come to me, and
but you're feeling better now.
Put me out of commission for a little while. And real life happens, and so it sucks, but you know what? I'm glad that we have you guys around, and gamers fight better together, and that's what we're here to do. Or geeks fight better together. Gamers do too, I guess. You guys,
they're one and the same.
Not always, but they can be.
They can be. You can double dip.
They can. So, hopefully you guys will check us out on Patreon.
Yeah. If you want to help us continue the fight to bring good quality geek-related content to you, go to Patreon.
Keep up the you guys can help me buy some Mucinex Severe stuff so I can get cleared out.
That is at patreon.com/geeketc podcast. For as little as $1 a month, you can help us fund this project we've got going here and keeping this awesome train of content coming out.
That's right. We'll be like our friends Tom and Ben, who are some of our patrons. We love you guys. We appreciate your support, and we're gonna be working on some more patron exclusive stuff, especially Baldur's Gate coming out.
Yeah.
Maybe some named gameplay, playthrough, or some choice game playthrough, or something like that. And we're excited for it. And we appreciate the support you can give us, even if it's just a 5-star review, no words on one of your podcasting platforms. Please consider doing that.
Yeah, and even when you're hundreds of hours deep into Baldur's Gate 3, always remember to keep kicking out.